now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
What's going on, RBLR Nation? I am your host, Zach. Here with me, I've got Mr. Ben Whitelaw. How are you doing today, bud?
I'm okay. Not great. Could be better, but it is what it is. That's baseball. How are you doing?
Oh, same thing, basically, man. Living my best life, but not my best sports life recently, I guess.
Nope. No, I was going to say at least the Lightning, did a cool thing coming back the other night.
There we go. Exactly. We have something to look forward to with the Bucks and the Lightning still, so that's nice. But let's just get into it right away with the first two games. I know they weren't pretty. The only two games we're going to go over today. No, they weren't pretty. They weren't the most fun games to watch, but what do you think about Game 3 in the series, man?
Oh man, that was a really just terrible way to lose. Oh my god, the walk-off homer. It is what it is. Everybody kind of felt that coming after that. We'll call it a ground rule double, I guess. But that was not ideal. It was pretty cool. The Rays came out swinging. Austin Meadows gets the home run early on. Rays take the lead. But Drew Rasmussen, he did what I was worried about him doing the entire season. It finally happened to him. He finally regressed. And he's a two-pitch pitcher. So it was bound to happen eventually. It just sucks that it happened in like a really important, almost must-win game. So really unfortunate there.
Yeah, I was going to say the ground rule double was... that I don't even know how to explain it. I saw a thing on Twitter, and it said that this spring training they're going to be a lot of guys training their outfielders on tip drills like they do in the NFL.
I honestly wouldn't doubt it. Like that's got to take advantage of that rule, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's wild, and to know that the umps have their discretion on when the ball goes out, where the player was at, and if he would have scored. And without a doubt, Yandy would have scored.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was almost to third by the time Renfroe botched the carom there. So, I by the book, that is the correct call to give KK second base, but it's not the correct call to not let Yandy go home. Like that should have been a run on the board. I mean, there's nothing anybody can do about it now, and it's kind of beating a dead horse at this point. But like, why does that happen to the Rays in the playoffs? Like, can't that happen to somebody else?
Anyone else, I would have been okay with it. I wouldn't even care.
It's just it's so crazy, and then to like not even address it afterwards. Like the league just has nothing to say. Like when the NBA, like if they mess up like a 3-second violation or something, they'll come out with a statement the next day. They're like, hey, we messed this up. We'll make sure the training is better and we'll review it, make sure the officials are competent going forward. But MLB is just like, no, this is baseball. There's no crying in baseball. Got to move on, get over it. Your team lost. So
yeah, exactly. It's a wild that whole thing. Like watching that happen live, I was just mind blown by it. And I know I've said it a couple times, but just literally, like, I couldn't wrap my head around how they didn't allow Yandy to score.
And it just kind of, like, sets this precedent where now, like, if a guy is, let's say Brett Phillips hits a ball to the wall, the fielder, tries to get it, he takes a bad route, can't cut it off. Brett Phillips is rounding third, he's coming home for an inside the park home run. The outfielder could pick up the ball and start juggling it, acting like he lost control, and then kind of swat it over the wall. And then who's to say that's not a ground rule double?
Exactly.
Like, by the book, that's technically a ground rule double. So I'm going to be really interested to see how that looks in spring training and maybe even the regular season. I'm sure they're going to, address it, maybe change the rule. But if they don't, why not, practice that? I don't really see any team giving up any more triples or inside the park home runs as long as that rule's in place. Like you could technically do that because you can't get inside a player's head and say, oh, well, he didn't mean to bobble the ball. Well, like you can't really say that for sure because you can't read anybody's mind. Apparently you can if you're Ron Kolpa or whatever his name is, or Sam Holbrook. I guess they can read minds, but yeah, that was just egregious. And I can't, and to like decide a playoff game, like Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing we can say here that's going to change anything, but it was just so crazy that would happen.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I would not be surprised. I know this is going to be jumping ahead a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised to see something about it in the winter meetings.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think we had a little bit of like foreshadowing in that game with Randy getting tripped as he's like, heading to second, maybe third on a double that he hit. I 100% understand why Schwarber would like try to trip Randy, because like you don't want him going to third on that play, but he was probably going to go to third and he gets tripped. He ends up at second. No call there either, which was like, I wasn't too upset about it because I would have loved if like Ji-Man Choi did the same thing to a batter who probably would have reached third. But like, you just make it difficult on the other team. It's cheating, but it's also just kind of like not cheating at the same time. But the umpire still got to call that. Like he's easily at third on that ball. So I thought that was going to be the worst call that the Rays saw all night. But then, the KK ground rule double happens and that was just the icing on the cake. So it is what it is. They ended up taking 2 runs off the board from the Rays that game, in addition to the 2 runs that the Rays lost throughout the series on balls and strike calls, looking at the scorecard data. So, losing 4 runs in a series where we played 2 really close games at the end is just not what you want to see there.
Yeah, you never want to see us get walked off. That's kind of in my opinion, I'd rather get blown out than walked off.
Yeah, it's a little bit less heartbreaking. And that walk-off, too, like, it was a single that was like a 75 mile an hour, like negative 54 degree launch angle single, just a regular ground ball, whatever, makes it through. Then there's a sacrifice bunt, then another single, pretty much a carbon copy of the same thing. And they had both exit velocities below 77 miles an hour. Both of them had negative launch angles and an expected batting average of 135. And then, of course, Kike Hernandez, walk-off sac fly to win the series. So really, really awesome. I love it. And yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I was saying, I'm just upset that Kike has somehow become the best player in baseball just for the playoffs.
Yeah, he got hot. I mean, I don't really think a cold or a hot performance matters either way. Like, you just get hot because it's, he's had like 25 at bats. Like that's a very, very small sample size. That's like a week's worth of at bats, really. So yeah, I mean, good for him. Like it probably feels really good, but I don't think his 455 batting average on balls in play is sustainable at all. But it's been sustainable for a couple games, so that's what the Red Sox needed, and they got it from him so far.
Yeah, exactly. So all right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the final game of the season, then the Game 4 of the series.
So it was. I feel like they made the right moves with McClanahan going in. It was a little iffy, but Rafael Devers, he hadn't hit a home run on a fastball in the past 2 years, so he's seen 744 fastballs dating back to 2 years ago until the moment that he hits that home run off McClanahan. So it's just like that was the right move. It just had the least likely outcome, and unfortunately, the least likely outcome was the one that hurt the Rays the most. So it really sucks, but I liked what the bullpen brought out. I liked what Patino gave. Everybody did their part. It just fell a little short in the end.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. That was just kind of, and not to mention with him being, you could tell he was injured the whole series.
Yeah.
So it just kind of shows that I think it was just the luck was on Boston's side at this point. Like all the momentum was on Boston's side. In my opinion, after Game 3 or after Game 2, but it felt like everything that could go wrong for us did. Like
it really
744 pitches without or fastballs seen without a home run. How do you? Yeah, shouldn't throw anything else to him.
And he just pumped. It's lefty on lefty fastballs. I forgot to specify that, but that's what McClanahan does. He throws a decent fastball. His breaking stuff is usually better, higher quality, but Devers hit a home run on a fastball after not hitting one for 744 pitches lefty on lefty. Like what else are we gonna there's really not much else they can do, and it's just unfortunate with the injuries, and then just nothing really went their way this season, and to win 100 games with nothing going your way is pretty incredible. But there's really no advantage in the postseason, I guess. It's just like a clean slate for everybody, and it just happened to, work in the Red Sox favor, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of one of those things that goes to show you, it doesn't matter how many games you win in the regular season, because now 2 of the 3 teams that had 100-plus wins are out of the playoffs. So,
yeah, that was bad. That was pretty bad too. That check swing call for the Giants. I feel pretty bad for them. Like I don't we have the data, and the league likely has some kind of data on their own too. But like the public even has the data on which umpires are good at their jobs and which ones are not. So this might seem like a radical idea, but why not just put the umpires who are good at their jobs in the postseason? I don't know if that was like thought of before, but I feel like we might be onto something here.
Ben, you're thinking too logically, man.
I mean, it makes too much sense, I guess. I don't know what they're trying to go for, but I didn't like it.
Apparently you need drama in the playoffs. Like, the playoffs aren't drama enough. You need just a little bit more. Let's throw in a couple of crappy umpires.
And I feel like it's either just they're that incompetent or it's rigged, and I don't want to, be like a conspiracy theorist, so I don't want to say that it's rigged, but like, how are they that incompetent? Like, a lot of these guys have been doing their job for a pretty long time, and if I'm not good at my job, I would likely be replaced, and I think most people would be, but we got to give credit to that umpires union, man. They're pretty strong. So
yeah, no, and you're spot on. If this was a regular job where, say someone's working at McDonald's and they can't cook a burger and they burn it every time they cook it, like, you're not going to keep your job. You're going to get fired.
Oh yeah, but I mean, the MLB model is like promote them into the postseason, so that the fry cook who's not doing a good job, if they followed Major League Baseball's model, he might get promoted to like the best McDonald's in the country or something, and then have to burn burgers there. It's just
exactly.
It's so crazy, and nothing we say or do is going to change it, but it's frustrating. So I'm sure everybody else is still feeling a little frustrated too.
Well, I would imagine so. I know that for me personally, it's been like, obviously it's not affecting my life, but like my sports life, man, I'm like, I'm not enjoying watching sports right now. Like,
yeah.
We just lost, like, this was our season, it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks, but they do have so much like young talent coming up. They had so many rookies playing this season, like, just so the future's looking good. It just sucks that we have to wait like 5 months now to see it back in action.
Exactly. All right, so let's go with that then. So that's basically, I mean, that's the last game of our season. So now, what are you expecting? Let's go with next season. How different do you think this team is going to look?
I think it's going to be. I think we might. I mean, we're probably going to part ways with Cruz. I liked the trade for him in the first place. I would have liked it more if he got us to the World Series, but he had a really big impact on a lot of the young guys. So I think his time here might be up in Tampa, but that's fine. I mean, they have a lot of options coming up through the minors. They could work with what we have internally. And I think we're going to see, maybe KK stick around. Like, he had a really good postseason, and it just reminded me of like, wow, he's probably one of like, if we had a Mount Rushmore of Rays players, obviously we'd have like Carl Crawford, Evan Longoria, BJ Upton, but I feel like Kevin Kiermaier might get, chiseled on there as well. Like, he's done a lot for this franchise.
I think I would agree with you that he would be up there. I would put him up over like Carlos Pena and people along those lines. But yeah, like I agree with you that he would be up there though. As much as he's got talk bad about him.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
he's done a lot for us.
Yeah, and he had a terrible first half to the season. Like he was very much not good, to put it nicely, but he really turned it on in the second half, and then he was good in October. And I feel like if we did have a Rays Mount Rushmore, he's got really good bone structure, so it would be really easy to like carve him in there too. So I feel like it's a win-win there. He gets to get put on the Mount Rushmore. The sculptors have an easy time. I think it would work out for both parties.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know where to go from there.
We could move on to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. But yeah, so that's. I agree with you that Kiermaier sticks around because of the performance over the second half. I remember I was not on the show for the first half of the season, but at the trade deadline, I was legitimately hoping that Kiermaier would get traded. So it was a nice thing to see him step up in the second half of the season and produce and just play well in October.
Yeah, I think maybe I feel like he has trade rumors like every season, but that's got to be like pretty taxing because, you have a family that you establish your life down here in the St. Pete, Tampa area, whatever. And, to just be thinking every day, like, am I going to have to pack up my family and move somewhere? Like, that's got to be a lot to think about. So once the trade deadline's over, it seemed like he really turned it on. So job security is important, I guess, for a lot of players, especially the ones with families. So, I get it. But I think I don't want to say most players, but I feel like a good chunk of the veteran players on the team are going to be shopped around this winter. I have a feeling, Meadows might be on his way out. I'm not sure. The outfield's crowded. Unless he learns how to play first base, I think it might make it a little difficult to keep him, especially with the guys they got coming up like Josh Lowe or Lau. No, Josh Lowe. Yeah.
Lowe, Lau was the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting that mixed up. Vidal Brujan plays all over the place. They got some really good guys in like the lower minors. A lot of shortstops, of course, because that's what they like to do is draft shortstops. But just a lot of pieces that can play all over the place. So it's definitely going to make for some tough decisions in the offseason here.
Yeah, I agree with you that unfortunately, because I do enjoy watching Meadows play, but we haven't really watched very much of him playing in the field this season. It was a lot of DHing until we got Nelson Cruz. He was our DH, so I could see him being gone next season.
Right, and especially with like how great the outfield defense is, like I feel like if we had like a pretty average outfield defense, it wouldn't really matter to throw him in there because there wouldn't be much of a drop off. But like Margot, Kiermaier, Phillips, and even Randy was pretty good. Like they were all like way above average in like outs above average. So they were some of the best fielders in the outfield in the whole league this season. So the drop off was pretty noticeable when Meadows was out there. He wasn't terrible, but he was definitely like below average. And having guys like Margot and KK out there, like it makes it even more noticeable. So I know the Rays value defensive versatility. So unless he learns first, I don't really know if he's going to stick around. I mean, Nelson Cruz is probably gone, so he could DH a bit, but it'll be interesting. And the team definitely has their hands full. They got a lot of Rule 5 minor leaguers that need to be protected, so they got to get put on the 40-man roster. They've got some, qualifying offer, restricted free agent type things like with Zunino. I think Glasnow is going to probably have to get like a new contract offered to him. So just a lot of moving pieces, and we're going to see some stuff happen over these next 2 months, even before like, the end of the year. So winter meetings should be interesting.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the most active off seasons in recent memory for the Rays.
Definitely. Yeah.
So that's a good little segue. Let's go into the off season stuff now. So what do you think about, and sorry for interrupting your point, but what do you see as our top, let's say, 3 priorities?
I think it doesn't necessarily have to be a starter, but just pitching depth. Just add to that. You can never have enough pitching depth. We saw that this season. So many players went down with injuries, or just their performance has dropped off due to fatigue, whatever. So I think pitching depth is going to be the number 1 priority. And I'd probably say number 2, Maybe some catching depth. We don't really know what we have with Rene Pinto. Francisco Mejia's, he's a solid backup. He'd probably be a starter on some other teams, but, re-sign Zunino, solidify that, and then find like a third, fourth catcher to maybe sit around in AAA or on the taxi squad, I guess. And then the third priority, that's a tough one. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe like a right-handed bat. I feel like we always need that with all the lefties that are on the team. What about you? What are your priorities?
So I agree with you on most of them. I think that I would like Tampa to sign at least one starter, a reliable starter, not someone who, and I know that Tampa always does it, they're going to sign someone who no one expects them to sign, and it's going to be some kid that's only played AAA but has a 99-mile-an-hour fastball and comes in and does phenomenal. But but I would like for them to sign a reliable starter. That's my number one priority, because throughout this season, once we lost Glasnow, we had 2 actual starters, unless we're counting Waka as a starter. So I feel like that's going to be our biggest need. And then, I agree with catching. Zunino had a career year this year, and so I would love to have him back. And I know he's got an option, if I'm not mistaken, and his option got more expensive because he played 100 games. Without being hurt. So I think that a backup catcher, unless Zunino decides that he doesn't want to play anymore for Tampa, which I don't see why he would. But and then I would say either maybe a right-handed bat or someone more prolific at first base.
Right. I think solidifying first base should be something they consider. So maybe they're moving on from Ji-Man Choi. Maybe they bring up Dalton Kelly. Maybe they move Austin Meadows there. I think Yandy's probably going to platoon, third and first. He's still under team control for a little bit, and he really got his launch angle thing figured out in the second half. So hopefully he can, carry that into next season somehow. I think that sounds pretty good. Especially with a pitcher that can give them some kind of length. I don't feel like it has to be a starter, just because I know like all the options they have in the minors, and Brendan McKay is still working his way back. Brent Honeywell looks like he could be ready to make the jump. Shane Bosch, Shane McClanahan, we got the Shanes. Did you actually? That just reminded me. Did you see that video of McClanahan after he gave up those runs in Game 4?
Oh, when he was in the dugout?
Yeah.
And then after the game, if I'm not mistaken, he stayed in the dugout. He was the last one in the dugout, and someone, I can't remember who it was, but someone was like talking to him. He was just taking it all in.
Yeah, I think it was Colin McHugh. I'm not sure, but I think he's going to win the Cy Young next year. Like, he's going to turn that anger into something really impressive.
I agree. He is, so obviously I would love to have Tyler Glasnow back, and I love Glasnow, but I think that McClanahan is going to be the next, I don't want to say face of the franchise because we still have Kiermaier, but I think that he's going to be the next ace for Tampa Bay.
I think so. I think that was literally like his supervillain moment. Like I really think he's going to go off next season. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. I cannot wait for next season for him.
And Patino too. Like he had a bit of a rough postseason, but his Game 4 performance was pretty good. If he figures out a third pitch, he's honestly, I think he has a higher ceiling than McClanahan and Boz. I really think he could. I mean, I know I've like ripped on him a lot this season, but that's because he's been a 2-pitch pitcher. But if he gets a third pitch, he's really good. His raw stuff is so good. His command is okay. The Rays are good at fixing that. But if he gets that third pitch, whether it's a changeup, curveball, just literally anything, an eephus pitch, I don't care if he's throwing like a 50-mile-an-hour like rainbow. I don't care. Just throw something different, and I think he could be really special too.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. I didn't think about what we had in the bullpen that could be starters. I didn't think about it that way. So that's a solid point, though. So maybe take starting pitchers out. I agree. Just get depth.
I feel like if they do, sign someone, to more than just a couple $1 million, it'll probably be a starter type pitcher. Someone who could start a game and go like 6, maybe 7 if needed. But In terms of like the signings the Rays usually make, they'll throw like a couple $100,000 at like some left-handed 6'9" guy from Norway who throws like 107 miles an hour and like figure out how to get him into the game. So I think we're going to see a mix of like very Rays-like moves, but then I think they're going to maybe spend a little bit of money. They spent some money this season with Cruz. They've got Evan Longoria on the books still for $5 million next season, so maybe they go out and get him back. Longoria had a pretty team-friendly contract, just not really friendly to the Rays since he left. So
exactly.
It'd be cool to bring him back. I think he's still got a lot in him, but I think that's a long shot because the Giants have a pretty good team, and I don't think they're going to want to give him up.
Well, I mean, didn't they just traded for Bryant though? So maybe.
Right. I mean, that's true. Evan Longoria is getting up there in age. He can still play, in the field a bit. He can still hit, that's for sure. So that would be really cool. Maybe if they're, Stu is like trying to win back the fans, he might, force the front office to go grab Longo. But I don't know. Honestly, anything could happen. I never expected them to ever trade for Cruz. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I think I'm so obviously not excited. I'd rather still be playing in the playoffs, but I'm excited for the offseason looking at it that way, that it is an unknown this year. Like normally we hear, Tampa's going to go for this guy, this guy, this guy. Like I haven't heard any of that. I haven't seen like, oh, they need this. So I'm just excited to see where it goes.
Right. And, even when they, bring in guys from the minor leagues, when they bring them up, the minor leaguers, they're going to be rookies. They're not going to be that great. They're going to be good players, but, nobody's going to be like an all-star level player when they bring them up, but they're going to have a ton of guys who are able to contribute. So it's still going to be like a team effort. I think Wander Franco is going to be a star next season. He was kind of a star in this postseason. But yeah, it's just there are going to be a lot of players we're going to see, and I'm so excited for it. Are there any guys in particular, like in the minors, that you're looking forward to seeing next season that maybe we haven't seen? Honeywell, yeah.
Honeywell, 100%. I'm excited to see him get actual, like, I'm excited for the hype, I think is what it is, because I remember him coming out of high school and following him in that aspect and just being like, this guy's got something, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition, I guess. Almost like to put it into another sport terms like basketball, we watched Zion Williamson go from high school, like middle school, high school, into his one season in college and then get into the NBA. And obviously it's a different route because in the MLB, they go to the minor leagues. We could not see him for 5 years. So it's just been one of those things where it's like, it's been nice to watch him grow. So I'm excited to see him come into the league. And besides him, I would probably say Lowe as well.
Yeah, he's going to be really impressive. I'm excited to maybe see Xavier Edwards. He was the guy that they traded one of the guys that they traded Tommy Pham for. So I think he might be able to make it to the majors next season. He's still pretty young, but he's got like really similar bat to ball skills as Wander Franco. It just doesn't really have the power yet. But he is a really, really good base stealer. He plays a good second base. He can play shortstop and third too. So I'm looking forward to possibly seeing him. I don't really know where he's going to fit, but he's a switch hitter, plays everywhere. So, I'm sure they'll be able to find room for him somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that we always have a plethora of is just infielders. Like they can play every position in the infield and are legitimately decent at it.
Yeah, I kind of like that strategy of drafting just the most athletic player you can find in the draft, or, the most athletic that fits like your organizational philosophy. Like they got Greg Jones a little while ago. They've got Carson Williams, I think. Yeah, Carson Williams. He's a pretty athletic shortstop. He's probably going to stick there. Maybe he moves to third, but they've just got a ton of athletes who are really good baseball players in their system. So it's never a bad thing to have too much depth at a certain position, because you can always move guys around, trade them. I think we're going to see a lot of success for a long time for this Rays team.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm not stressing about our future. It's not one of those seasons where we win 60 games. Right. So it's not a season where I'm like, we had a terrible season. Let's get back at it next year. It's one of those things where now I'm expecting us to make the playoffs for at least the next 4 or 5 years.
Oh, yeah. And teams are noticing like what the Rays are doing. Like I had it in my notes that 4 of the 8 teams that were in the division series, so I didn't count like the wild card games in the playoffs this year, but half of the teams are run by guys that worked for the Rays. So like including the Rays, like they're obviously run by Eric Neander, but the Dodgers, Andrew Friedman, I forgot the guy's name for the Brewers, but he's a former Rays executive. James Click, he runs the Astros. And then there was Bloom, who runs the Red Sox. So it's like...
Yeah, I said Boston just got one too.
Yeah, like, and you know, we see a lot of people on Twitter right now saying like, oh, analytics doesn't work because the Rays are out of the playoffs. But like, look at all the teams that made the playoffs and like, look at the White Sox who, you know, I'm sure they have some kind of analytical approach, but the Astros are all over that. Like they're all over the player development side of it. You know, the drafting, they're very good at what they do. So
and
it's,
yes,
and the cheating too.
The cheating.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to throw that out there and make sure that gets thrown out.
Well, and the Red Sox with Alex Cora, he kind of like, you know, piloted that whole cheating thing and then also brought it to Boston. But
I forgot about that.
It is what it is. And then New York had a little bit of that Apple Watch or like the Apple Watch science too. So it's all over the place. It kind of feels like the Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire type stuff where it's like there are probably more guys doing steroids than we know of. So I think there are probably more teams cheating than we know of, but I don't think we're going to find out who it is until 5-10 years from now. So
yeah, it's not cheating until you get caught is the thing that I've always heard. So there's
right,
probably,
that's true.
I would imagine a majority of the teams in the league cheat somehow, but
right.
It's only cheating if you get caught. So if you don't get caught, no one's ever going to know you're cheating. Or if you piss off one of your players and they come back and tell on you.
Right. It'd be kind of funny, though, if like Baltimore got caught cheating and like they're still just this bad, like even with the cheating.
Still one of the worst teams in the league and they've been cheating worse than anyone.
Well, maybe that's the most ethical way to cheat is to steal the signs but then not do anything with it. Like kind of with when Kevin Kiermaier picked up like that card from the Blue Jays catcher or whatever, he still struck out 8 times in 4 at-bats. So he was a nice guy about it, I guess.
It's one of those things, they just do it for the thrill of not getting caught. They don't actually cheat to win. They just want to cheat because it's fun to them.
Oh, yeah. So, I wouldn't admit this on our podcast, obviously, but let's just say, theoretically, if I took something from a self-checkout at a store just for the sake of taking it, it might feel kind of fun to do it. So, I'm not saying that I have done that or I ever would, but I'm saying if I did, it might feel really fun,
That was real quick. That was a good statement. So off the record real quick.
Yeah. I know we're recording right now, but I haven't done this thing.
I'm just saying, hypothetically, if I did, it would be cool, okay?
Yeah, it might be. It might be.
All right, so we got that out of the way, and now I know we're kind of jumping all over the place, but this is what you get when you listen to RBLR. We have fun. So, who do you think, and I know my answer, but do you think Randy wins American League Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I'd give him American League Rookie of the Year. I don't think Adolis Garcia did enough near the end of the season. Randy led all American League rookies with a 4.2 baseball reference WAR, which is, almost all-star level. Anything above 5 is usually when players are all-stars. So I think that's pretty impressive. I think Jonathan India probably gets it for the National League. A former Gator, he had a pretty good season.
He had a really good season.
Yeah, I think Randy gets it, and I think Jonathan India gets it for the National League. But who do you got for your rookies of the year?
I exactly with you.
Did I steal that? Sorry.
That was no. You're good. You're good. I don't think it's necessarily stealing it because I just feel like it's that obvious. In my eyes, anyway, especially in the National League, to me, he was the best rookie by miles. India.
Yeah.
So, there's not even a comparison for me there. And then, like you said, Garcia was very solid, but I just think Randy has done it. I know technically he's a rookie this year, but he still had enough last year to show, he's legitimately a great player for us. So I see him being Rookie of the Year because of, and I know they don't go off of it, but his playoff performance last year and then continuing to do that this year.
Yeah, I mean, he deserves some kind of award just for stealing home like that. Like, that was really cool. That was really impressive. So, but that kind of brings me back to that. So what I was saying earlier about rookies, like Randy was by far the best. Well, not by far. I guess Adolis Garcia was kind of close, but he was definitely like the best rookie in terms of value this season. But like, the best rookie doesn't even have like an all-star level WAR. So it's like the rookies that the Rays are going to rely on like next season, and as this team continues to churn out talent from the minor leagues, like they're not really, well, it's highly likely that they're not going to be these all-star level players. So they're still going to need to lean on guys that have been there, like Wander Franco, and I know we haven't talked about him, but we probably should. Brandon Lau, he's going to get leaned on during the regular season, and hopefully the playoffs next time around.
Take him out of the playoffs next time.
It sucks because like a 0 batting average on balls in play is like the least sustainable thing in the entire world. But he also had like a 40% strikeout rate. So when he was not making contact with the ball, he's striking out. But then when he does, he just couldn't find the grass to save his life. So it's unfortunate, but I think that he just needs to keep getting put out there, and he'll get over it mentally. And once that first hit comes, we saw it when he was a rookie. He went like 0 for 27 to start off his career, and then after that, he's been like, I think, a top 10 player in WAR since he snapped out of that slump back in like 2018, 2019. So it's like he can do it. You just have to keep giving him opportunities, and those floodgates are going to open maybe next season, maybe in 2025. But when he does snap out of his playoff funk, he's going to be, the same Brandon Lau that finished, 23rd in WAR this season, which is awesome. He had like a 6 point something or a 5 point something WAR, which is like really good. Like he was one of the top players in the league. So I think he'll get it done. You just got to keep putting him out there. Maybe send him to a sports psychologist. And I'm kind of kidding when I say that, but also like not really, because it's definitely a mental thing at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
So the umpires didn't really help him out. Like he kind of had to swing at everything because everything was a strike apparently when the Red Sox were pitching. But it's still like, this is the third postseason in a row where he hasn't performed, and it's all very small sample sizes. So it doesn't really it's not too much weight, but it's become a mental thing for him, so he just needs to, exercise his demons and do something. But I think he'll be fine going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I know that was like, we got a little off topic, but no, you're exactly right, because he's like, it was a great segue because we are going to have to rely on him. Yeah. We're going to have to rely on him. People like Diaz, Zunino, those are like the big names, not big names, but the big names on the Rays that we've got so many young players, and especially if Cruz leaves, we need them to be able to lean on them, because no matter how experienced you are in the minors, you don't have the knowledge of the MLB like these guys do.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so it'll be interesting.
It's gonna.
I just wanted to. Oh, no, you're right. And I just wanted to, say that about Brandon Lau, because I know a lot of people are like, he needs to be DFA'd, but like, that's the same thing they were saying about him back in May. Like, just give him time. He'll come around. He's one of the best hitters in the league. He's the best hitter on the team until Wander Franco, solidifies himself next season. But I think he's still the best hitter on the team until Wander Franco takes that from him. So.
Yeah, no, and you're exactly right. And I think I would never say, DFA him or anything, but I think at the time of probably his fourth at bat in the fourth game, I probably was like, why is he still here?
Oh, yeah.
like put him on the bench. So I can see where people would be like, yeah, get rid of him. We don't want him. But no, I agree with you that he is the best hitter on our team. And it just sucks that he fell into everyone goes through a cold streak, and nobody's going to have a hot season all season. And it just kind of felt like he had his cold streak at the most important time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, like a couple Red Sox hitters like Kike Hernandez and Alex Verdugo, like they all get really hot at the same time that Lau and Cruz got cold. So it's a small sample size, but it still hurts. It still sucks.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to have nightmares of Kike Hernandez for the rest of my life, I think. Or the umps calling, not the umps, the announcers calling the... I remember watching the third game when Christian Vasquez hit the walk-off home run. And the ump was like, only six catchers, or is either 6 or 16 catchers, have ever hit a walk-off home run in the playoffs. I was like, why would you say that?
Okay,
why would you do
we
that?
get it. We all knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. You know as soon as you say that, it's like telling a field goal or a kicker in the NFL that they're on a streak for 27. You know, they've made 27 straight, best kicker in the league. You know he's going to miss it when they bring that up. So don't ever mention something as an announcer. Don't ever mention something if you guys are listening. Don't ever mention anything about someone doing something good against the Rays, please.
Yeah, no, it sucks. And just one more thing about Brandon Lau. He was credited with -3 weighted runs created this postseason. So his playing basically took 3 runs off the board from the Rays in the postseason. But if we factor in the 2 runs the umpires took away from the Rays in Game 3 with, Randy getting tripped and then Yandy given third base instead of home, the umpires took away a total of 4 runs from the Rays this postseason. So technically, Brandon Lau was a little bit less harmful than the umpires. So I think the ALDS MVP should go to either Ron Kolpa or Sam Holbrook, and not to Kike Hernandez.
Yeah, I second that. I second it 100%. All right, so basically, I mean, that's all that I've got. Is there anything else that we missed that you wanted to go over? Or?
No, I think we're good. I mean, I've cried enough about the umpires. I stood up for Brandon Lau in the front office a little bit, so I feel like I said what I wanted to say. But we still have Rasmussen for next season, too. I forgot about that. I feel like this rotation is going to be really good.
So I guess that's our show, guys. If you guys could just do us a favor, get on, follow us on all the major podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts at, Spotify, Apple Music. Just go ahead and jump on, give us a like. We appreciate you guys for staying with us this long and enjoying the show with us. Now I'll give the last word to Mr. Ben and see how it goes.
So I'll definitely be harassing some Rays minor leaguers on Twitter this offseason, see if we can get anybody on an episode for an interview. I'll harass them nicely, but I have some guys in mind that I'll try to get on. So thanks everybody for sticking it out with us this season, and we're really excited for the offseason and what we're going to see in 2022. So go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.